So once in a while, I'm going to do what I call raw videos, and they're unscripted. There's not a lot of background research that goes into it. It's more just my thoughts and my feelings. One of the things that I wanted to talk about was why do I feel Christianity is important to getting involved in whether it's politics or culture, where society is headed. Oftentimes, I've heard, Christians need to just keep their beliefs to themselves. It has no significance in the world outside of your faith and your personal walk with Christ. It should not be in politics. It should not have an influence in culture and that kind of thing. Uh, I disagree with this really strongly because we use our faith to heal people. We use our faith to guide us to provide for the poor. We use it to provide for people who are sick and hurting, people who are depressed, or people who are struggling through something, people who are struggling through finances. And we have no issue with helping them as an act of our faith. And my question would be, why can't that extend to helping people retain liberty or freedom, or to retain a healthy environment and a healthy standard for their lives? If we truly believe that our faith is real and that our faith is vital, if we truly believe that Christianity is the way, that Christ is the way, the truth, and the life, then we should be able to provide that to other people. And we should be able to use that outlook and that lens in order to help influence things that are going on around us. And so when I look at a government or I look at a culture, I look at it and go, how could my Christ help this? How could God, with his influence and his guidance, make this healthier and more free? We have no problem looking at a person who's struggling uh, in their marriage or struggling with their home life and going, you need Christ. You need God to help you. And we, a lot of times in love, go to that person and say, I think, you know, there's something here for you through Christ. And I see that as a small window of what we can do in a larger sense. And that's why my passion is for culture. My passion is for politics, for philosophy. Because if God is the God of truth, then that means that his truth can permeate all things. And the reason I wanted to create this was because I've been doing the podcast with Massey through Self Evident Ministry. And you guys can check that out. Just YouTube Self Evident Ministry, and we give all the links for that through that. But we talk a lot about day to day outlooks and perspectives. We talk a lot about government. We talk a lot about society. And we were always trying to point it back to Christ or point it back to faith. And there's a reason for that, as I've just outlined. When we step out with our faith and we're willing to stand on it, we're creating a new standard, a new visual for others. We're creating something for them to look up to. And oftentimes, when a person uses faith and says, look at the past and look how there were different standards and people were nicer to each other and that kind of thing, the response often is, you're forgetting all of the bad stuff. And maybe in a sense that's true. But we can't help but look at our culture today and say that there are a lot less boundaries or standards that have been set. The social mores have changed. We look at the proliferation of pornography, the just massive tidal wave of violence and sex in our media, in the things that we take in our entertainment. And not to say that violence and sex haven't been apparent through all cultures and generations. You look at, you know, ancient Indian history, and by Indian I mean East India. You look at that, the Kama Sutra came out of that. You look at Greek history, and in the later stages of the civilization, pederasty and pedophilia and all of that were very apparent. You look at Roman, the Roman history, and you look at how sex and violence were upheld, whether you had the Colosseum or you had orgies and bathhouses and temple prostitutes, and even the Bible talks a lot about this in ancient civilizations. So it's not like it didn't exist. It's not like it wasn't there. But that there was a great shift when Christianity really started to take root and came on the scene of what was modest, of what was considered acceptable in polite society. And the pendulum has swung back and forth time to time, but that doesn't mean that we should just forego the righteous standard. It doesn't mean that we should erase or not strive for the ultimate. And I do believe that the social mores of Christianity are vital to a healthy society. If you look at, say, the marriage rate, you could reference my video of fatherhood. Really, the basis behind that was the Christian standard of what marriage was supposed to be, what the role of the father and the mother were supposed to be. And we look to those things as a potential ultimate, something to strive for. If you are looking to be an artist, you don't look at the 5-year-old's picture and say, I want to draw like that. You look at the Leonardo da Vinci's, you look at the Michelangelos, you look at the greats and say, I want to draw like that. I want to paint like that. And so you strive to reach upwards. And that's why I think Christianity is so important, is because we have to have an ideal. We have to have an archetype of what we're reaching for. And the more we try to push Christianity's standards, push the Bible out of society, get rid of its influences on culture, get rid of the quote-unquote Judeo-Christian values, the more we're going to be lost in the dark of what is the ultimate. And we're seeing the replacement of it with a idea of equality across all spectrums for all things. And I'm not arguing that equality is wrong. What I'm arguing is that the standard that's starting to be set under this banner is dangerous. And I'll give an idea or an example of that, is that we're now seeing that in order to achieve equality, we must suppress and put down other elements in order to level things out. It's basically a societal game of whack-a-mole. I don't want to see a societal game of whack-a-mole. I want to see a society that's trying to lift everybody up, and without the expectation that they're all going to reach the same height, because we're not. We're all made different. We're all made with unique abilities. We're all made with weaknesses. We're all made with strengths. And one person may be able to become a nuclear physicist, and another person may only be able to push a broom. That's not inherently bad. The thing is that person pushing a broom have more potential to be raised up to another position. And that doesn't mean that we have to fire the nuclear physicist and put the janitor in his place. And so I know I'm getting off on a tangent, but my whole point for this is to remind you that faith mores in a society are vital. A civilization revolves around the faith of the civilization. And you get in really dangerous territories when you start to remove that. And each faith has its weaknesses, whether it's the actual standards of the faith or the implementation of it. But it's a unifying value. And when we lose that unifying value, we come into a lot of chaos. And what I'm seeing now, through all of this is a lot of chaos and a lot of decay, and more so than just the growth of pornography or the massive amounts of violence on TV. But what I'm noticing is a decay of um, a civilized people. We're watching the conversations rapidly become more and more radical and extreme, and the calls to action becoming more and more common. And if we're not careful and we don't start unifying around Christ, we're going to become embittered with each other even more so than we already have. So I put this out, and I'd like to see your comments, see your thoughts, and please be sure to keep watching the videos. Let me know what you think. I hope you learned something from them. I hope they're more nuanced than some things that you may tend to receive. So I hope you guys have a great day. Take care.